What's been going on, everyone out there? My name is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to this brand new JJ's One Man Podcast. A lot of things to talk about today because there's been so much going on all over the place between gaming stuff, movies, TV, entertainment stuff. There's been a lot that's happening. And of course, your man here has been busy as well talking about all this stuff as well as engaging with all of it. If you didn't realize, not that long ago, this little bad boy right here, Tekken 8, came out on PlayStation 5, and I've been playing it a ton, which has been a lot of fun going online and offline. It's been pretty good. I've been really enjoying Tekken 8. It's definitely a banger and one you should pick up if you want a PlayStation 5, but it's available on other places as well. But regardless though, a little housekeeping. Make sure you guys follow me and subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Don't forget to follow me on all of their social media, including Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, all those places. At Jakejames Lugo is where you could find me on all those places. Leave a like on this video too and comment down below on any of the comments we get into today because there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot of things that your man is going to have to get into, but before we get into some of the bigger things, a couple of announcement stuff that I do want to share, which is actually really cool and really fun. I do want to share that, number one, your man is actually going to be part of Star Wars Podcast Day this year for 2024. If you don't know what Star Wars Podcast Day is, basically it's when everybody gets together and celebrates not only Star Wars, but also Star Wars podcasts. All the way back, I want to say in 1999 or 1998 is when the first Star Wars podcast was really a thing. This was around the time of the prequels, which is pretty big for a lot of us Star Wars fans out here. But for me this year, the reason why I'm being a part of this and why I'm actually doing this is because I actually get to talk about some Star Wars game stuff with all of you, which should be a lot of fun overall. But yeah, definitely be on the lookout. February 7th is when my episode for Star Wars Podcast Day is going to be going up live here on the channel. Going to be sharing it everywhere, possibly also on other social media as well. But look here on the channel because we're going to talk about Star Wars games. We're going to talk about Star Wars itself. We're going to talk about just being a fan and everything else in relation to that, but more specifically about Star Wars games because I got a lot to say and I got a lot to discuss with all of you. And I feel like a lot of people during Star Wars Podcast Day are not going to be able to talk about Star Wars games as good as your man right here. So be on the lookout for that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I only found out word about it recently because it actually was shared with me from a friend of mine. Jedi Lex had shared something on social media, and I saw that. I was like, you know what? Why not? Why not get your man in there and actually be part of this and actually talk about Star Wars video games? Because that's my bread and butter. That's my forte, which should be a whole lot of fun. Something else I should discuss a little bit too, I should touch on very, very briefly. Today, at the time I'm recording this podcast, is the release day of Persona 3 Reload. It's actually going to be available on multiple platforms, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. I'm actually getting on a Game Pass on my Xbox Series S, which is fine. Normally, I would play the game on PlayStation, but I was like, you know what? It's available on Game Pass. I got Game Pass Ultimate. Why not? Okay, rather than just go crazy, because I just bought Tekken 8 not that long ago. And of course, there's only a limited amount of time to play any other game in February because at the end of February, as we all know, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out. The very last day, I believe, of February. And once that happens, everything just stops. So I got a couple weeks to get through Persona 3 Reload or play more Tekken 8. And then once that happens, it's a wrap. Let me know in the comments if you're going to be picking up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, if you're excited about it like I am or anybody else is, or if you're going to be playing Persona 3 Reload right now, because that game's going to get people at least 100 plus hours, at least, you know, because you're going to want to play through that game again. It's a brand new remake / like remix of Persona 3. You know, in comparison to the previous one, which was Persona 3 Portable and obviously the original game, but this is like the golden version of Persona 3. When Persona 4 Golden was to Persona 4, Persona 3 Reload is to Persona 3, which is great, which is really, really cool. So just wanted to mention that really briefly. So now let's get into some real discussion out here. Let's get into some real stuff to actually talk about, okay? Which one thing I do want to mention that's actually related to this, okay? Not that long ago, this PlayStation State of Play happened, and your man here was actually on the IGN live threads or live spaces. Sorry, I always keep messing it up. It's live spaces on Twitter. I was actually part of it with IGN talking about and reacting to the PlayStation State of Play that just happened. And I had many thoughts that I got to share on there. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out over on the IGN main page. I believe there's a version of it that has the audio that's lurking around because usually the live spaces, they sometimes have the audio archive and sometimes they don't. But whenever it's live, I usually tweet about it and let everybody know what's been going down. But let's talk about this State of Play, right? We had a couple things that happened during the State of Play. Some good games, some okay games. There was a lot of VR stuff, which if you know me, if you've been following me for a while, I don't really care about the VR stuff as much. I respect the tech, but I don't care too much for the games. Like, there's been like one or two big VR games that I really love, which is Blood and Truth and also the Last Guardian VR experience. Oh, and Star Wars Squadrons, which is pretty much like, being able to pilot an X-Wing starfighter or any sort of Star Wars ship in VR. I'm down. I'm there. I'm there day one. But regardless, though, outside of that, other VR stuff, not really my cup of tea. But besides that, we had other games that actually were shown and were actually really detailed in comparison to what we've gotten before. Number one, we got a lot of Silent Hill love. We got a brand new free game on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation Network right now called Silent Hill: The Message, or The Short Message, I believe it's called. And that's pretty cool. It's a free game, something that's short. It reminds me a little bit of PT with his first-person perspective. I thought that was really, really cool. Now, besides that, we also got another look at Silent Hill 2, the remake game, which is awesome. One thing I will say is that the horror genre for horror games, especially some of the classics like Dead Space, Resident Evil, and now Silent Hill, they're really in like a nice, cool renaissance because a lot of people that never played those original games are discovering them for the first time, and those that were with this series for a long time are now going back to the roots of why they probably love those series. So we had that with Resident Evil 2, and we eventually got it with Resident Evil 3 and everything else. We had it with Dead Space Remake, which was awesome. I played that on Game Pass, and that game was fantastic. I didn't realize how good the first Dead Space game was, but seeing it in this remake was just amazing. And now we have it with Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 reminds me a little bit of some of the stuff going on with Resident Evil 2 Remake, but it's still pretty darn good looking, and it has its own like little Silent Hill unique characteristics to it. It's very creepy, very suspenseful. It's got a great atmosphere from what I saw in that trailer. They focus a little bit more on the actual action parts of it, but still, I feel like the atmosphere and just the tense, just like eerie feeling is what's really going to make that game. It just looks good. I can't wait to see more of it. I can't wait to play it eventually. Now, a couple other games that I do want to mention. Judas from Ken Levine, the guy who created, the BioShock series, looks fantastic. Very BioShock-esque. There's a lot of similarities you can pick out from the gameplay that they showed. I definitely want to know more about the world, and I want to see more of like the actual areas you're going to be exploring, but from what we've gotten so far, we got a good look at it. It still looks pretty dope to me, and I definitely want to play it. I feel like a lot of people, if you love FPS games, if you love BioShock, you're getting this day one, more than likely. It just looks that good. Another game I do want to mention too, which I thought was my favorite of the show, Rise of the Ronin. Rise of the Ronin definitely got a lot of stuff very similar to Ghost of Tsushima and Assassin's Creed. The stuff that they did show, that they did focus on, I thought was really cool. That little kind of like glider that you have, being able to go around certain areas, reminds me of Assassin's Creed, but it's in the context of feudal Japan, the Bakumatsu era, which I thought is pretty cool. They also had like this kind of, I guess you could say, a kunai on a chain that the guy was using in the combat, and also different stances when you're fighting other people with a katana. And again, a lot of that seems like it's pulled directly from Ghost of Tsushima or very heavily inspired by it. And they're very similar in many other different aspects if you look at that gameplay. But if you're into that style of game, if you like Ghost of Tsushima, you're going to want to check this out. It's done by Tecmo Koei, same people who did Neo, and also the Dynasty Warriors series. So I'm expecting some good things, and it looked good to me. I know some people said they were kind of indifferent about it, but I think it looks good. I think it looks interesting. I can't wait to see more of that game, especially when it's like right around the corner, I think. I think it's sometime like in spring. I can't remember the time frame, but I know it's not that far off. And then finally, the last thing to talk about with this state of play, right? Let's talk about Hideo Kojima, because Hideo Kojima, he's doing things. Like, he's doing a lot. Like, we're getting a lot of Hideo Kojima in a short time span, probably in the next like couple years. Number one, damn, I'm coughing over here because all the Hideo Kojima that's going on, right? So number one, we got Death Stranding 2. We had a very big, meaty trailer and look at Death Stranding 2. Gameplay, we got to look at, obviously, cutscenes, the characters. It's a very Hideo Kojima game and a very Hideo Kojima look at his game. It's weird. There's a guy playing electric guitar that's shooting electric bolts. There's other weird, like, creepy, like, mysterious things going on. I never played the first Death Stranding. I never really sat down and played through it. I have to do so because I have it on PlayStation Plus Premium. But what I will say, though, is that this did look good. This did look interesting. And I have plenty of time to play it through the original first, especially the director's cut, before the sequel comes out, which I believe it's called Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. It comes out in 2025. So we got a whole year before this game drops. But it looks good. If you love Hideo Kojima, if you love the weird stuff, this is right up your alley. This is going to be something you're probably already decided you're going to check out this game, which is fine. But that's not the only thing that Hideo Kojima is doing, right? There goes my camera going crazy with the with the light strobing, right? Here's the thing. Hideo Kojima is doing an original IP, okay, that's going back to action espionage. So pretty much what people know him for, like the Metal Gear Solid stuff, but he's pretty much doing a bunch of things with that's an original IP, which is fine, which is cool, okay? We appreciate that. We know Hideo Kojima does a lot of good Hideo Kojima things, but it's an original IP. It's not related to Metal Gear. We don't know much about it. We don't even have a name about it. But the other thing, too, that he's also doing, he's got a Death Stranding movie project that's in the works. So I'm pretty sure he's going to use the same actors from the game that's in the same thing with the movie. And he's going to be doing other stuff with this original IP that's connected to a movie or connected to other things. I'm guessing with social media and everything else. Not a lot of details other than the fact that he said, hey, it's going to be pretty dope. It's going to be interconnected. You're going to actually try to see like this blending of both the game and everything else outside of it. And he's working with Columbia TriStar. That was like the big pan out that they had, is like teasing, like, okay, we're working with a real movie studio, because we all know Hideo Kojima likes movies. He wanted to be a director of movies. That's like super apparent. He talks to all these movie people. So this is like right in his element. So what I do hope, though, and this was something I mentioned on the IGN live spaces. Number one, he's doing a lot, okay? I don't want Hideo Kojima to be spread out too thin, because I don't want the quality of some of these things to suffer. When you want Hideo Kojima doing something, you want him like hyper-focused on it. You want him giving all his attention, making it super awesome, making it fantastic. So that way it ends up being a classic or something really highly regarded, as opposed to being average or mediocre, okay? And that can easily happen when a creative is spread out amongst a bunch of projects. Because remember, he's got Death Stranding 2, he's got that movie, he's got this original IP, and he's got whatever it is that's coming along with it. So that's about 4 or 5 things, give or take, that Hideo Kojima has got his hands in. But regardless, though, I got faith in him. He's not a stupid guy. And also, PlayStation isn't stupid too. They want to make sure, they got a great relationship with him, but they also want to make sure that they're getting something awesome out of him with Kojima Productions. So fingers crossed that we see and hear more about this stuff fairly soon, probably in the next couple months, if not longer, towards the, Summer Game Fest, because you absolutely know that Jeff Keighley's going to want to get the exclusive on this stuff, because there's a lot, and I'm pretty sure come Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards, he's going to have a lot to say, or hopefully a lot to show. But regardless, though, let me know some of your thoughts about this stuff down below in the comment section. Are you ready for some more Hideo Kojima, or do you think it's too much? What do you think about some of the other games shown during the State of Play? Okay, Silent Hill 2 Remake, Silent Hill The Short Message, Rise of the Ronin, Judas, any of the VR stuff for PlayStation VR 2. Talk to me about that down below in the comment section. Tell me some of your favorites that were throughout the actual show, right? So, I'm coughing here because I'm getting over a cough here, right? Excuse me. So, let's talk about this other stuff that's going on, some other news that's been happening in the world of TikTok, okay? So if you didn't already see this, basically to summarize a little bit, Universal Music Group, they have a lot of contracts with a lot of licensings for all these different big pop songs and really top 100 songs. A lot of music that's underneath their umbrella, okay? Including Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, the list goes on, right? Recently, they were threatening, and I think they already did at this point, they pulled out all the songs, the licensing and the rights to them from TikTok. And they've been going back and forth with TikTok, talking a little bit of smack, saying different things. TikTok being pretty much saying like, hey, listen, Universal Music Group is being greedy. They're taking out this stuff. They're not supporting the artists, even though they claim they are. It's been a lot of tit for tat all over the place. Like, there's been a lot of nonsense being spurred all over the place. Bottom line is this. This is going to affect TikTok in a significant way, specifically TikTok users that used a lot of that licensed music for trends, for posts, for little stupid jokes or anything else like that. Because with this actual licensing being pulled, all that music and all those sounds from all those different posts, they get muted immediately, which sucks because now the videos are kind of ruined. Like, there's nothing that can be done about it. And until those licensing come back, TikTok can't really do anything about that other than just, mute the actual videos, which is a shame because I feel like it's all this behind the scenes business nonsense that's going on, this back and forth, that all these other people that have nothing to do with that are being affected by it. Like, there should be some sort of like legacy thing or legacy sort of guideline or something that could actually protect a lot of those creators and a lot of their work. Because if their content gets muted and they're still out there on the TikTok algorithm, they're just going to, again, they're not going to get pushed. They're going to make TikTok look bad. A lot of the landscape is going to change. A lot of those creators might not be making money and stuff. And the article that I'm looking at here on the New York Times really gets into a lot of that stuff. So if you really want to get a detailed breakdown of all that, definitely check it out when you can, because I feel like it's a lot of stuff that's going on that's definitely affecting a lot of people. And it's a shame because this could actually happen for a variety of different reasons on different platforms. I mean, look at what happens every time when YouTube makes a change. When there's like a little tweak or something like gets changed up or something is different about TikTok, everybody flips out because everybody's affected on there in more ways than one, between the Google AdSense stuff, the way that videos are pushed out, the engagement and the interactivity with the audience. There's a lot of things that all get affected within these moving parts. Now with TikTok specifically, as someone that's more on the gaming and entertainment side of things, I'm not out here doing videos that are like, trends, using pop songs, acting a fool, or just goofing off and stuff. That's like not my thing. Respect to anybody else that gets big off of TikTok with that, but that's not my thing. So for me, coming from the gaming side where I just have like a couple tracks here and there with the voiceover that I do, it doesn't really affect me as much because at least from my understanding, from the stuff that I've been doing with my own TikTok, I haven't really been using a lot of these licensed music tracks that could be given takedowns or anything else specific. I feel like, there are other people that'll probably be similar to me, but I think there's an overwhelming amount of people that are just going to be affected by this, which is a shame because there's like nothing much that anybody that's on the consumer side could actually do. Like all these content creators that are going to be hit by this, like they're kind of like SOL, which is a shame because it's like, excuse me, the coughing here, like talking so much, right? All these creators are going to be affected by this. And it's TikTok's responsibility to not only protect their creators, but also to accommodate them that are using the platform because it's so many people. And I feel like, again, this is a Universal Music Group thing where they're constantly always known to be a real pain in the butt to creators, especially on places like YouTube. But for all we know, it could be many different things going on behind the scenes so that this could be a problem. So I really do hope, fingers crossed, that they could come to some sort of agreement and allow people to still have their videos with their music and originally as they were, as opposed to muting everything or taking stuff down. Because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that are going to be affected by this because of the nature of the platform, because of the nature of the music that was being used, the popularity of it. I mean, all those Taylor Swift songs, all that stuff from Billie Eilish, all that stuff like, what other artists did they mention here? Drake. There's another one. Lana Del Rey, Ariana Grande. Like there's a lot of like different big pop artists or massively popular like tracks. Olivia Rodrigo, Nicki Minaj, Post Malone, like and then they mentioned K-pop in here, but it gets into a lot more than that. Def Jam, like the list goes on. So here's hoping that something could get figured out and actually stuff could go back to normal, quote unquote. Let me know some of your thoughts about this stuff down below in the comment section. Tell me, what do you think about everything going on with TikTok? Do you think that it's Universal Music Group's fault? Do you think it's TikTok's fault? Do you think that there's other things to blame about this? Talk to me about that down below in the comment section. So, let's move on. Let's talk about some other stuff because I want to talk about this article that was done by Kotaku, man, because we got to talk about this. We got to have a real conversation about this. And I'm going to pull up the version that's up now because you'll understand in just a second when I get into this. But Kotaku was catching heat, right? Kotaku was going to Kotaku, as he usually does. Every time I see Kotaku up on the little trending page on Twitter or anywhere else, I'm like, okay, what happened now? Like, what did Kotaku do now? Like, what's going on? What's its problem, right? So what we have is this article here. I'm going to move myself over to this side so you guys can see it. But basically, there was this article that was written by Zach Swainson. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Zach Swainson or Swainson. That was about Alan Wake 2. It was about the new update that came out for all the different stuff and changes that they were doing for Alan Wake 2, I believe on every platform, if not also just specifically PlayStation. No, it's every platform. So Xbox, Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC. Not only did it fix a bunch of bugs and glitches and stuff, but it also added a couple extra accessibility features that includes stuff to really tone down and mess around and manipulate some of the flashes that come from the jump scares. So this could be like, some of the images that pop up, some of the flashing color, flashing lights, the sounds, for the different sounds that come up with the jump scares. There's a lot of different things that this can mess with. Now, the reason why this is relevant, okay, before we get into the actual article itself, the reason why this is relevant is because they were putting this in for accessibility features for people that might experience seizures or different things that might be related to that. That's a big deal for a lot of people, especially in the games industry where accessibility features are a big deal, right? So we come to this article. Now, I'm going to show you the original posting. Okay, check this out. Look at this headline. Okay, now the headline was this originally. Zach had wrote this article and pretty much was trying to be tongue-in-cheek, but it did not come off like that. And many people, including myself, when they read the article, saw just like how not right this was. Because it seemed like a jab to people that were going to be using these features, these accessibility features. And the way that it was presented was just to elicit a negative response from people, to jab at people to get rage from them. I mean, look at it. It says, new Alan Wake 2 update is for all you babies out there. This was the original like posting on Twitter, right? Now, since then, I'm going to show you guys as well, okay? Since then, as you could see, they pulled down the original tweet when this article went up. This was after all the backlash that they had gotten from a bunch of different people. Not just myself, like, commenting on this, but, like, a lot of game developers, a lot of media people, a lot of industry folk in general, a lot of Kotaku readers or people that just don't like Kotaku, obviously, but many different people in the audience and YouTubers, content creators that I saw, all commenting and jumping on Kotaku. And afterwards, what was it? If I could find it here, I gotta find it, see if I can type it out. But Zach Swayson, here it is. I found it here where you guys could actually see it. Zach had issued an apology, okay, that came out after this, okay, after his article went out there. And there's a number of things about this. Number one, the biggest thing that I do have to say about this, if I'm being real, as someone that has a lot of experience writing articles about video games for now, at this point, 14 years that I've been part of the industry as a freelancer, as a writer, as a podcaster, all this stuff, right? I have a number of thoughts about an article like this. My biggest problem with it was that this article was in very poor taste. And it was done and got published, by the way. Got published, okay, after going through an editorial team, okay? When articles go up on Kotaku, people need to understand, they don't just get seen by one pair of eyes. It's not just the writer that writes this up and then it gets published. It doesn't work that way at websites, especially larger websites like Kotaku. It's a number of different people that see this. It could be the editors or a editor, because there's two people, the writer and the editor, that usually do this, or a number of editors. Could be also seen by the editor-in-chief, especially, by the way, after a negative response like what this article got, right? There's a number of people that actually see this article before it's published, okay? And while it's published, and to see the reaction, to see the traffic and stuff. So my problem is that stuff before the corrections was put out here, and all these other people were okay with it. Which, to me, I read through the original version of the article, and it was just jabbing at people that were going to use these features. There was no reason for this type of article to be written, let alone published, for something like that. Because if something like this, if I was the editor-in-chief, or if I was an editor at a website like Kotaku, or any website for that matter, and I saw an article like that, it would instantly get thrown back to the writer and be like, yo, you need to fix this. You better rewrite this, because we don't need to jab at our audience like that. We don't need to jab at people like that. Now, I'm coughing so much. Now, Zach and his apology. Let's go through this apology briefly. Now, I'm not trying to dogpile on Zach, but we need to address all of it and need to talk about it, since it's part of the actual story here. And it's part of the actual thing that was the follow-through, the fallout from the actual article being published, right? So, Zach comes in here. He says, I fucked up. The Alan Wake 2 story was intended to be a lighthearted jab at folks who call themselves babies and can't play horror games. I didn't realize the update was also an accessibility feature. Obviously, that was a mistake on my part. Sorry, folks. My problem with this statement is that you knew exactly what this was, because before writing the article, you could see all the different, features that come with an update, especially if Remedy Entertainment or any other publisher puts out that they're putting an update out there and it has certain things. And I'm pretty sure, I haven't seen it yet, but Remedy Entertainment or another publisher, if they're putting out accessibility features for their game, because it gets so much traction from that audience that really wants to see accessibility features for various different types of people, that's already going to be out there. So you already would see this type of stuff. So you can't use an argument, you make a statement saying that you don't know that this stuff is in there. Because if someone like me could easily find it, if someone out there that looked at this stuff, that reacted to your article, could have easily already known about this stuff prior to your article going out, there's no reason that you writing for Kotaku shouldn't be able to see this stuff. I mean, that's just a cold hard fact. That's not me trying to be a jerk. That's not me trying to dogpile or dunk on Kotaku or Kotaku writer. That's a fact, right? It continues here. The headline was never aimed at folks who use accessibility features in games. It was aimed at self-described weenies who hate scary games, and it's clear that the intent in the headline missed its target and ended up hitting a whole bunch of folks I never wanted to hurt. This is why people look over and read over editorial whenever it gets put out there before it gets published, because I'm pretty sure, I would like to think someone else over at Kotaku that looked over your article, if someone did, okay, would have brought it up, because it's common sense. Like, if I, again, immediately reading it from the very beginning of that original version of the article, because it's not the same now, okay, it's corrected. They even say that it's corrected here. But that original version of this article was clearly just like taking swipes at people. Even if you were trying to be jokey, even if you were trying to make fun of them a little bit, or take a little like joke or jab, but be self-deprecating at the same time, it really did not read like that, like at all. There's a way to write, there's a way to do that, to make it very clear, like, look, I'm joking with you, audience, I'm joking with you, reader. And whatever you say at that point, people go roll with it. And whatever comes from that, comes from that. But there's a way to do it that makes it very explicitly clear. And trust me, after reading that article, it was not clear like that at all. It felt like it was literally just trying to make statements and make insinuations or implications that was trying to take a jab at the audience. And I think everybody saw that for what it is. And it was not cool whatsoever. The actual thing continues, right? Anyway, I'm sorry, and I'm genuinely happy more folks can now play Alan Wake 2, and in the future, I'll definitely be careful when discussing game updates that involve changes to flashing lights or quick cuts. The post is being tweaked, and once again, I'm sorry. One last thing, even though I apologize and explained what happened, I'm not expecting everyone to go, well, never mind, we're cool. Some folks will still be mad, and rightfully so, and they don't have to accept it. I completely understand that. There's a couple things about this, okay? Obviously, that's everybody's prerogative to accept an apology or not, but I want to focus more on a greater discussion here, not just about Zach's mess up here in Zach's editorial. This has been an ongoing issue for Kotaku for a long time now. This same exact scenarios, same exact thing for various different subjects. We saw this with the Call of Duty devs when they had an editorial that was basically making fun of them for going to Europe to actually do their work, and it was trying to insinuate something about them that was not true. We saw this also with the editorial about The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, when that game got leaked out. I mean, need I even say more about that? We also saw this when it happens with Hogwarts Legacy, like not that long ago, last year. All the editorials that Kotaku did about it that wasn't even really focused on the game, that was like really trying to make statements or make a painting of that game and that development team that wasn't accurate, let alone everything else that came with that. The list, excuse me, the list goes on, and it continues, and it's been going on for years at Kotaku. That's the problem here. This is why, or at least one of the reasons, besides everything else with the accessibility stuff, that people reacted the way they did to this editorial, and why Zach is apologizing here. I would hope and I would think that he got a stern talking to from somebody over there, because I find it very hard to believe that nobody else on the Kotaku editorial staff, let alone the editor-in-chief, right here, the editor-in-chief did not see this prior to it getting published, or before all the corrections, the original version of it, prior to it getting published. Like, I find that very hard to believe. Okay, look, here's even the correction. I'll read it to you guys. The post previously disregarded accessibility implications of this update. It has been updated to acknowledge those implications. Kotaku regrets the error. I'll tell you right now, the only reason why they kept this up is because of the traffic and stuff, but that original version of that article, I would have pulled it down. I would have issued a retraction and do an entirely different piece, because the way that I read that and the way that I saw that and everybody else did, it was not in good taste. It was poor. It was horribly written in the way that it was like trying to just jab at people. Because I don't believe that they didn't know about the accessibility features, but I also don't believe that there was very few people that looked at this thing, which I find to be a shame. I find that to be a real shame. But this goes back to my point, with some of the statements that he's made. This is not just an article issue for this one here. It's not just a Zach issue. It's a Kotaku issue. It's an ongoing issue with Kotaku as a media outlet, as an editorial outlet, one that writes news, one that writes op-eds and stuff, that they are constantly doing things that either take swipes at people or really try to elicit a negative response or rage-induced response from their audience, from their readers, from their viewers. And it needs to stop at some point, because I don't see a good ending to this that's been continuously going on. With all the rocky stuff Let's be real here, okay? Let's be real with your man JJ here, okay? With all the crazy stuff going on with various different outlets that have been closing down or have been letting staff go, that have been doing one thing or another that has not been good for the industry, like, that doesn't mean that places like Kotaku are exempt from it just because it's Kotaku. Like, it's a very weird time right now for various media outlets, for various journalism outlets, for various other places. There's been a lot of layoffs in our industry, not just in development, in many different places. And I feel like if this type of thing continues with Kotaku and this type of thing continues to linger where the audience is going to really check out from Kotaku's editorial and Kotaku's content, let alone their written or video stuff that they got on YouTube, I feel like that type of thing is going to affect Kotaku as a website, because I'm pretty sure Geo Media has no problem like making cuts or doing things like they've already done in the past, which is, again, I don't like the way that happened. I never agree with like when certain things like that go down, but who's to say that something like that can't happen at Kotaku because of stuff like this, because of the response that they got, because also people will tune out from reading Kotaku. You can feel however you want about Kotaku as a website. Again, this is an ongoing thing for many years. People don't like this website because of stuff like this and other things. But real talk, if you want to see our industry do better, we got to have the real conversations. Like, look, I don't want to see people lose their jobs at Kotaku. I don't want to see people get affected by this because of things like this, or lose the audience because the audience feels like it's being constantly disrespected, or they're seeing things disrespect other aspects of video games and the industry. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a writer, whoever it is, whether it's Zach, whether it's Luke Plunkett, whether it's Ethan Gosh, or any of those other people over there at Kotaku. I don't want to see them having to go out and make apologies and have to deal with the fallout of stuff like this. Nobody wants to see anybody lose like that. If you're someone that actually likes seeing people lose or get affected greatly like that, then you're part of the problem. Like, that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't do anything for the betterment of the industry, let alone the individuals involved. We want to see places like Kotaku included do good stuff that benefits games as a whole, benefits the hobby, benefits the individuals that are part of this hobby, benefits the people that are part of development. That's the type of stuff we want to see. Okay, this type of nonsense, I feel like, really needs to be nipped in the bud. They really need to, over there at Kotaku, need to have a real hard conversation with some of their editorial staff and find out what the real issue is, because it's one thing to be opinionated. It's another thing to be a jerk with it. And there's another thing to be irresponsible with the platform that you have, because I'm sorry, Zach, like, look, I get it. I accept your apology. I'm pretty sure other people might not, but I accept your apology. But let's be real here, okay? This should have never happened in the first place. This should have never gotten to this point in the first place. Like, if you want to write about the updates and you want to make a joke like that, there's a far better way to go about it. And there's a far more responsible way to make sure that it's clear what you do with your editorials and the type of audience that you're trying to reach and what you're trying to present to the audience. Because from what I saw there, it was not it. It was not good, and everybody else saw that it was not good. It was a real bad look for Kotaku, and it did not help their perception in the eyes of many people. So it is what it is, but take it or leave it. Let me know some of your thoughts about this stuff with Kotaku, Alan Wake 2 article in the comment section down below. Do you agree with what I'm saying, or do you disagree? Do you feel like Kotaku is beyond redemption or saving or whatever else? Or do you feel like, like some things could be changed over there to make it better, so that way stuff like this doesn't happen again? Because, again, I don't want to see people who are getting made fun of because of accessibility features. Just like I don't want to see a writer get dogged on and dogpiled on over social media because of something like this. Like, it sucks. Like, it's not fun to talk about. Like, it happens. You have to... Damn, the coughing. You have to acknowledge it. It's part of the issue, but that's the thing. Like, nobody wants to be happy about this. Like, it's just a shame to see. So, anyway, because I'm coughing so damn much, and plus, also because I ran through all the topics I wanted to talk about, let me know your thoughts about everything that I discussed today on the podcast. Hopefully, in the next episode, which will probably be my Star Wars Podcast Day episode, I'll feel a little bit better, so there's no coughing. I'm just going to rest up and chill out, probably play some Persona 3 Reload. But talk to me about some of the stuff that we discussed today, and also suggest topics and comments and questions that you guys want me to address on the next episode. Hopefully, if not this next one, the one after that. But I want to get some good engagement with you guys. I want to actually talk with all of you, discuss games, comments on movie stuff. Not a lot of movie stuff to talk about because I'm going to do my review of Argyle on TikTok, but as far as other big news when it comes to movie stuff, not really a lot for me to say at the current moment, but that might change in the next episode. So Leave your comments down below, leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out my other stuff on all the social media platforms. Follow me on Twitter at JakeJamesLugo, follow me on TikTok at JakeJamesLugo, follow me on Instagram at JakeJamesLugo, and also on Threads at JakeJamesLugo. All those links are down below in the description box, and that's all I got for you guys. So hope you all enjoyed this podcast episode, all the little crazy quirks and all and stuff, and I will talk to all of you again very soon. This channel is sponsored by Flynn's Arcade and More, located in Margate, Florida. Flynn's is one of the premier spots for gaming fans in South Florida. They have a variety of arcade games on cabinet for you to play throughout the week, including all of your beloved classics. You could also play a ton of new and current console games too, on PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo consoles. Grab a snack or drink and enjoy the best gaming experience you'll find. Visit during one of their many big events to connect with the gaming community in South Florida. Want to test your skills in competitive fighting games? Join any of the weekly tournaments that happen at Flynn's for a chance for some cool prizes. And if you're into tabletop gaming or model kit building, there's a bunch of events there for you too. Swing by Flynn's Arcade and More, located in Margate Boulevard in Margate, Florida. You won't find a better spot than Flynn's.